This is how you share your games.
Oh, I am so fucking angry. Well, in case you haven't seen, Sony woke up this morning and... what is the best way to screw over my customers today? And proceeded to release this blog post. Physical disc production ending in January 2028 for new games releasing on PlayStation consoles. And with that swift title, PlayStation killed physical games. So, like I said, yes, I am very angry at the moment. Well, it's not entirely surprising. This is something that, if you pay attention, probably at some point was coming. However, you always maintain that semblance of hope that these companies might think, okay, maybe it's too much. Maybe we can let them keep a semblance of ownership. But no. Here it is, and it starts with PlayStation, which it's hilarious, and that they're the ones that buried Microsoft because they tried to do this. Now you can argue Microsoft was too soon, so here we are now. So let's go over what they said, what is going to happen. I'm going to apologize in advance for any crash outs, cursing, or pure rage. So I'm sorry. Well, first we have this. I mean, just by reading this, I can see that this guy is probably an idiot. As consumer practices and the broader entertainment industry continue to shift away from physical discs to digital, physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles will be discontinued starting January 2028. Following this date, new games will be available on PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. This transition has no impact on games that already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028 in disc format. This is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends, as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. This transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and plays games today. We'll continue to prioritize our resources and drive innovation in how players can access games and provide choices as to where players prefer to purchase new games, wherever that's at retailers or PlayStation Store. We remain committed to delivering a world-class gaming experience to our fans, and we thank you for your continued support. Fuck you. Listen, it is true. The broader entertainment industry continued to shift away from physical to digital. That is true. There's no denying it. In fact, Sony said that around 80 to 85% of their sales were digital. By the way, you need to keep it in mind that 15 to 20%, it's still millions of players. I want to make something clear. If you are someone that looks at this and think, I mean, I get it, but I don't care. I buy everything digitally and I've never had any problem with it. I understand it. I mean, I'm not going to force you to care. You probably should. If you enjoy gaming, you probably should. As far as you understand the potential consequences, that's fine. However, you need to be a very, very special kind of idiot to either defend this. I approve of this decision. Oh, kudos to Sony finally getting rid of those discs. Or just completely disregard it as it doesn't matter. I respect the person that is, I get it, but I don't care. I don't agree with him, but I respect him. But the one that actually thinks it's a good idea in any way, shape, or form, I'm sorry, I'm just angry. Listen, and here is the real kicker of why I think that's a level of stupidity I simply cannot comprehend. You see, if you consume all digital, if you're happy with all digital, if you like all digital, the fact that there is physical games, not only it has zero impact in your own experience, it doesn't affect you. It's a whole different medium of what to consume it. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't degrade your experience of games. They're just there. Physical games are there, completely separated from your own experience. So going out of your way to agree with it, disregard it, or cheer for it, it's really stupid. Because not only that, but it will make your experience worse. And you might be thinking, it's not going to affect me. I already buy everything digital. I have never had any problem with it. I like it. Fuck you. I understand why someone in that position would think that. Okay, so let's do a little bit of an exercise. Let's get into a hypothetical example. In case you were not aware, a couple of days ago, it was news that due to a licensing, I don't know if it was a dispute or simply due to the agreement itself, which would be even worse, but more than 500 purchased movies and TV titles from the PlayStation Store will be removed from libraries and from sale. If you bought any of these movies, which included titles like Terminator 2, Rambo, Apocalypse Now, they will be removed. You will no longer have access to them. It's not that they are delisted, just delisted. It's not that you won't be able to download them again. It's that you won't have them. You paid for them, and they will be gone. So, that is something that just happened. So, why this happens? Well, because licensing agreements and licensing law, it's completely outdated. When media made the shift to digital, the laws, they weren't updated. So, we had this example. Now, I'm going to give you, it's a very extreme hypothetical case, but, as I was thinking it, I thought, if that happened, I wouldn't be that surprised. So let's say, hypothetically, that Marvel comes and buys back the rights for Spider-Man back from Sony. And in their infinite wisdom, they think, you know what, we're going to make our own games. They go and tell Sony that they no longer have the rights to Spider-Man, to the image, to the character, to anything. So Sony now has to delist the Spider-Man games. They are also, like the movies, be removed from people's libraries. So you no longer would have access to those games. So if at some point you want to replay it, you go check and you see, oh, the game's not here because it was removed. And even if you make the case, if you get even if you get a refund, the game would be gone. And at the end of the day, you wanted to play the game. It's not that you were actively looking for money, you were looking to play the game. But now the game is gone. You know what you can do in that situation? You could go and try to find a second-hand copy, which, honestly, so many of them were printed that you have a pretty good chance of finding it, most likely cheaper than you would have bought it in the PlayStation Store, or if you already had it in a physical way, you can put it in and play it. Now imagine if that happens with Spider-Man 3. They make the game, they release it, it's for the PlayStation 6, it's digital only. Now that game is gone. There will be no legal way to play it. And it depends on how strict they are with their DRM and all that shit. And because it's not coming to PC, most likely there wouldn't be even an illegal way to play it. Put yourself in that situation for a second. The game you paid for, the game you liked, the game you want to play again, it's gone forever. And there is nothing you can do. So, even if you don't engage with physical games, even if you don't care about them, even if you actively mock people that like physical games, if it happened to you, to a game you like, you'll be pretty pissed off. Because when the whole The Crew thing happened, a lot of people were like, who cares? It was a bad game. It was the first game. It's irrelevant. Someone owned that game, liked that game, and wanted to play it. And they couldn't because it was taken from them. Not to mention that without any physical media, you have no other market by the PlayStation Store. The PlayStation Store would have no incentive to compete. If their games are not coming to PC, if they're not released physically, so you can buy them secondhand or you can lend them to a friend, what incentive does Sony has to not screw you over and charge you 80, 90, 100 for their first-party games? And you might be thinking, well, people won't buy them. That's the problem. People will. It may be hard at first, but they will. This also brings another part of the conversation. It's most likely, almost assumed, that the PlayStation 6 will be a digital-only console because it kind of answers the question with this reveal of the physical games. The PlayStation 6, it's allegedly still happening at the end of 2027. And if the games are gone from 2028, I would be surprised if the PlayStation 6 has this drive, even as an extra. So, yeah, I believe it's pretty much likely that the PS6, it was already likely with an add-on, but now it's probably not even going to come with an add-on, which opens questions about backwards compatibility. Also, which is, by the way, it's going to get kind of buried in the news of the physical games, but at the same time, they announced that the PlayStation 3 and the PS Vita PlayStation stores will close gradually from August 2026 all the way to July 2027. The PS3 is going to start in Mexico, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Stores will close on August 2026, additional Latin America and Middle Eastern countries, and all remaining regions by July 2027. Also, the PlayStation Vita will close globally in July 2027. They already tried to do this. Well, luckily for you, most PS3 and PS Vita games are physical games. And this is what I meant. The PS2, while had minor online functionality for very limited games, these are the first generation that include complete online functionality. Now that they're dying, this brings the question. There are a few games in there that are digital only. So what happens with the games that you bought? They say you have access to them and you will be able to download them, well, for now. So this was most likely inevitable. But any game that is digital only, you won't be able to buy it. If you already own it, you will have access. Who knows what will happen in 5-10 years? Even Domino's Pizza UK is making fun of Sony. Well, they always do, but makes about as much sense as us changing to digital pizza. And we really need updated guidelines and updated law for digital ownership, because at this point, unless you have a physical copy of a game, and by the way, when I say physical, I mean fully physical, as in the whole game is on the Blu-ray or Blu-rays, and it doesn't need any sort of connection. So unless you have a physical game like that, you don't own the game. Even if the game only requires connection just to verify that the game is there, sooner or later, in 10, 20, 50 years, those servers will be shut down. And when that happens, your physical copy, it's worth nothing, because you won't be able to connect to servers to check the copy. Is there anything to be done here? And this is the more depressing part. Probably not. Probably not. Because the best we can do, let Sony know how do you feel about it. I'm making this video in hopes that at least one person could listen to it and think, yeah, it's not that good, okay? It's not a good thing. But realistically, if they decide to do it, the only thing you can do is vote with your wallet. But I'm sorry, but that's not going to work in this situation. Sure, if that 20% that buy physical games suddenly stop buying physical games, it will be a big hit, but it won't make Sony collapse or anything. And let's be honest, most of them are just going to shift. Now, on a personal level, my main top reason to own a PS5 and a Switch is for the physical games. Because I don't buy digital games on consoles. Yeah, the exclusives are nice, especially Nintendo. So if the PS6 is digital only, it doesn't come with a disc drive, and the games are not going to be physical, I'm just not going to buy a PS6. If I'm going to be forced into a digital-only storefront, most certainly not going to be the PlayStation Store. I'm just going to stay on Steam. Now, there is one company made a statement after this, which is GOG. If you care truly about ownership and preservation, GOG is the only digital storefront that actually achieves that. Well, they share a clear statement. Even if a game vanishes from the GOG storefront, it never leaves your library. Exactly as digital ownership ought to be. And that is the best you can hope in digital. It cannot guarantee that it will always be available for purchase in the storefront because, again, licensing law is dog shit. Same with copyright law. They're outdated. They need to be completely revisited in the entire world for digital products, for digital ownership. So if you really want to, you can download it from GOG. In fact, all games on GOG are DRM free. You can download them and you can even put them in a Blu-ray. You can burn it into a Blu-ray if you want, if you really want it physically. That's the other thing. Unless you are extremely young, you're going to tell me that never a friend of yours lent you a game? The first time I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, a friend of mine lent it to me. I was like, oh, I don't know, the remake, I mean, looks cool, but I don't know if I want to... Okay, you can try it. He gave it to me. I played it, and I bought it. By the way, I couldn't play the whole thing, but I bought it because I loved the game and I wanted to have it. But when it's all digital, there is never a guarantee. So that's about it. And this shit will continue to prioritize our resources to drive innovation in how players can access games and provide choices as to where players prefer to purchase new games. You slimy piece of shit, you're actively removing their choices by taking away physical media, because now you cannot buy secondhand games and you can only buy the games where Sony says you can buy them, because make no mistake, a code in a box in a storefront, this is trying to gaslight you into, oh, but you can buy whatever you want. It's not about where. Listen, I like going to a gaming store, like GameStop, for example, because I like going around, looking at this, having the games that... It's cool, I get it, but most of my games, physical games, I bought them on Amazon. It's not about where. And like I said, you don't care, you don't mind, it doesn't affect you, fine. You probably should care, but fine. But it is going to make it worse, in general. Because in the future, when Sony makes another 10 Concords, and it has to file for bankruptcy, what's going to happen with your gaming library? What's going to happen in 20 years when the PlayStation 6, that is digital only, the storefront, needs to be shut down? What happens to your games? And you might be thinking, I don't care what happens in 20 years. Well, if you're young, you probably think that. In 20 years, you will. Oh, you will. If you still like games by that point, you will. And you will want to play an old game from your childhood, and you won't be able to, because it's nowhere to be found. Hopefully that never happens, because that's an awful future, but this is not encouraging. This is indeed the worst timeline. Anyway, this was just for me to vent, because, while it's not surprising, but it really catches you off guard. Because, again, like I said at the beginning, you hold on to that sliver of hope that maybe they don't screw you over completely. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, well, me screaming about physical games maybe is not that enjoyable. I'm sorry for that. But I thank you for getting to this point, if that's the case. Leave a like if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel, and I see you guys in the next one. Hopefully it's a more positive one. Bye-bye.